Yes, I would be more than happy to break this down. So let's talk about the book of Proverbs. Proverbs, excuse me. Now, it is one of the more practical books in the Bible because it's not prophecy, it's not a history like some of the other books. It's actually just a collection of sayings, or short, sharp truths that are meant to guide your life and your dealings with spirit. So, in Hoodoo and African American folk Christianity, Proverbs is more than good advice. And let me back up for a minute because I've used this term twice now. Maybe people don't know what I mean when I say it. So, African American folk Christianity simply means the blend of Protestant Christian faith, especially Baptist and Methodist traditions, with African derived spiritual beliefs, practices, and worldviews. And these are things that survive the Middle Passage and our ancestors' time during slavery. It is specifically rooted in enslaved Africans' reinterpretation of the Bible. In the book that I mentioned yesterday, Slave Religion by Albert Roboteau, he describes it as the invisible institution, a hidden form of worship outside white-controlled churches where scripture, song, and African ritual practices were woven together. Communion, for instance, all of that stuff, physical rituals like anointing, foot washing, using blessed objects. Both of these are consistent with both the Bible and African spiritual heritages. So, in conjure and hoodoo practices that are performed alongside Christian prayer, they don't see a conflict between the two, point blank. Even though social media leads us to believe that there is, back then they didn't see a conflict between the two. But I digress. So let's get into Proverbs now. Let's start with Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. It is a guidance and to clear your path, aka a road opener. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." So let's break this down like we did with Psalm 91. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. This is a complete reliance on divine direction, not partial or hesitant trust. And conjure, this is starting point of any work. The understanding that God, source, the universe, ancestors, whoever you're calling on, is the ultimate power behind the work. Next, lean not into thy own understanding. A warning against relying solely on logic or human reasoning. This is where you have to drop the ego, folks. Drop the ego. Root workers often speak about following spiritual signs, even when the way forward isn't obvious. In all thy ways, acknowledge him. So you keep whoever you're calling on, God, source, universe, deity, central in every act, from lighting a candle, mixing the herbs, or setting foot on a journey. This is why you have to activate the herbs before you start to use it. Cleansing, all of that stuff. The next line, and he shall direct thy paths. This is the promise that whoever you're calling on, God, source, the universe, will set your feet in the right place. In these practices, this verse can also be prayed over for travel, court cases, job seekers, any road that needs to be open, but you also want to make sure it's secure and that you are avoiding traps in any way, shape, or form. Now, everyone knows that Proverbs 31 is used as the gateway for honoring yourself as a woman. So you could use this for self-love because it is about obviously blessing and honoring women. So it says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come." All right, so let's break this down because, like I said, it's a very popular verse. Who find a virtuous woman? This is not about perfection, but integrity and spiritual worth, which really helps with self-love. Far above rubies, this symbolizes lasting value, not wealth, but the kind of worth that no one can strip away. That's the confidence in you. Strength and honor are her clothing. In the folk traditions, this is read as a spiritual garment. A woman covered in these is shielded from disgrace. The next line, she shall rejoice in time to come. A prophetic blessing, joy and reward after endurance. Often this is prayed over daughters, wives, and mothers in the church as a covering and protection for honor. And this was used a lot during our church's Mother's Day programs or Women's Day programs growing up. So if you find yourself in a space of really wanting to do self-love, that type of stuff, this is definitely one of the verses that you would read with that. And you can check out the Return to Me candle, which is the self-love candle on my website. And this is one of the verses that you would use with that, which really helps honing in on that self-love and helping you see the beauty not only in yourself, but also what you have to offer and all of that good stuff. But on to the next one. Now, for the people that are always like, I have enemies, I have ops. This one would be for you. Proverbs, the 1st chapter, verses 26 through 28. And it says, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when you fear cometh. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. And I feel like this one pretty much speaks for itself. So I also will laugh at your calamity. This is divine reversal. The harm intended for you falls on the one who sent it. Hello, return to sender. Mock when your fear cometh. Symbolic of the enemy's confidence turning into complete and total humiliation. Again, so this is very straightforward. Then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. In hoodoo conjure work, this is spoken over reversal candles or jars to cut an enemy off from spiritual aid, their spiritual team. Ain't nobody listening to you when you do this. That's what I said. Be careful with this one though. And then they shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. This is the consequence. This is when the enemy finds no deliverance and when they are in trouble. That's why this verse is so important. And this is what you, like I said, you speak over reversals and things like that, because you want them to know that no help is coming. You want to cut them off from their spiritual team and let them know that basically you now have to sit in the consequences of your actions. And that's what makes this one such a powerful verse. All right, and I got 4 left that I want to talk about, and I know we're already at like 7 minutes, so I'm going to run through these very quickly. So Proverbs chapter 19, verse 5 and verse 9. This is protection against false witnesses and lies. So it says, a false witness shall not be unpunished, and he that speaketh lies shall not escape. So the first line, shall not be unpunished. This is both the declaration and the petition in your prayer. It's a demand that God carry out the justice, or the spirit team, whoever, that they carry out the justice, shall not escape. This is the promise that the false accusations will be exposed. Now, in root and conjure work, this is prayed in, over legal work, and it's often over a dressed candle with court cases, or with a court case candle and the papers, good for defamation of character stuff. Now, Proverbs 19:9 repeats the same structure, but it reinforces the certainty of that divine justice that you are asking for, that you're really hoping to call in. Now, Proverbs 19, chapter 19, verses 28 through 29 also helps against false testimony, or against wicked testimony. So this says, an ungodly witness scorneth judgment, and the mouth of the wicked devour iniquity. Judgments are prepared for scorners, and stripes for the back of fools. So the ungodly witness is the one who knowingly lies in testimony. You got people lying on you. This is definitely for you. Scorneth judgment. This shows no respect for justice or the truth, meaning you're just willingly lying on folks just because. Mouth of the wicked devour iniquity. They feed on lies as if it's nourishment. So you want to take away that nourishment from them. Judgment and stripes. So old biblical language for punishment and discipline. And conjure, this is recited when calling for liars to be brought low and the truth to be revealed. So if you have someone who is, constantly going around, speaking ill on your name, this is what you would use for them, and kind of stuff. Now, right, next we have Proverbs chapter 23, verses 6, and this is protection against jealousy and the evil eye. Also something that's very handy for people. So it says, eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. Eat thou not half the bread. This is very self-explanatory. Do not accept gifts, favors, or offerings from someone with bad intentions. Evil eye, obviously in biblical Hebrew, this refers to the jealousy that or envy that can spiritually harm you. Neither desire dainty meats. Reject the temptation to be pulled in by their false generosity. In Hoodoo, this is read over floor washes, sweepings. People read this over meals, if they're taking meals from people, but definitely something that you should be aware of. That good old-fashioned saying that you can't eat at everybody's house, you most certainly cannot, because you don't know what type of ill will or malice they have towards you. And yes, they can actually cook that hate into their food. But next, Proverbs 28, verse 22. Reversal of that jealousy and the evil eye. So it says, he that haseth to be rich hath an evil eye, and considereth not that poverty shall come upon him. So haseth to be rich. Greed, driven jealousy, someone willing to harm you to get ahead. And we all know people like that. The evil eye is obviously the malicious focus of the envy. And then poverty shall come upon him. This is where you have the reversal. So what they sent out returns to them. And root work or conjure work, this is paired with a mirror box work or reversal candles to send jealousy back to the source. And this was that video, did I post it on this page or my other page, where I talk about that, yes, people don't always necessarily have to do physical working. Sometimes just thinking it or really speaking it out there can cause you harm. And I'm not going to say that it's always going to be ill intention. Sometimes people can be so blinded by their jealousy, and then they don't realize that it's jealousy, that it's actually causing harm. But basically, that's what this is. And it's a good way, especially if you have a social media page and that stuff, to do this on a regular basis, just to kind of ward and protect yourself against that type of evil eye and negativity. But that's it. This video was 12 minutes long, much longer than I thought it would be. But yes, thank y'all so much, and I will do another one because I know people keep asking. Bye.